Vox'n About Pox'n. Hey guys, and welcome to the first and possibly last episode of the Vox'n About Pox'n podcast. I'm your host, Jake Janssen. I'm just here with the director of Safecoat, Ben Williams. I have Nick Savian next to me, as well as Luke Vanderstadt. And we're going to do some Vox'n About Pox'n.
Yeah, look, this is pretty exciting. This is something I never thought we'd be doing. But yeah, it's cool. We can have a chat about what we love, and that's epoxy.
Thanks for tuning in, and welcome to the Safecoat podcast. And Benny, what is Safecoat?
It's a great question, Sav. Great question. Safecoat is a protective coatings company, predominantly offering protective coating solutions throughout Victoria, but we do go nationwide where we needed to. You know, we've done a few projects up in New South Wales, Tasmania, Queensland. So, yeah, that's what we are. That's who we are, and it's what we do, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Jake?
I mean, well, yeah, he's sort of summed it up pretty well there. Safecoat, you know, we do protective coatings. That's what we do best. Everybody has flaws as well. So, you know, and in some instances, the best floor is an epoxy floor, or it's more importantly, it's a Safecoat floor.
Absolutely.
And what exactly are we trying to get out of this podcast today, Vanders?
That is a great question. Benny, what are we getting out of this podcast?
Oh, look, it's about all of us having a bit of a chat about some Q&As. It's all about us having a bit of a chat about some questions we've been asked, sharing our, you know, experiences throughout the years, and maybe passing on a bit of that as a bit of an education to the viewers today. Yeah, so they can, you know, learn from some mistakes we've made, and, you know, make sure they don't do the same things.
So a basic insight into our world. Nick, what do you reckon?
Yeah, well, Safecoat. It's we're becoming one of the big dogs in the industry, and starting to win these bigger jobs and doing what we love. We all love what we do, and we love the challenges that arise, and looking forward to what the future has installed for us.
Yep.
Yeah, it's well earned, I reckon, mate. Like, we've been doing this for a few years now, and, you know, we've all worked so hard to get where we are and have this reputation, and now be winning some of these real large projects for these real big companies, you know, Coca-Cola, Buller Dairy, Ingham's, Marvel Stadium, some nice big names there, and, you know, clients with good reputations that they need to, you know, hold on to.
And it's stuff we only sort of dreamed about a couple of years ago, and and here we are finally making it all happen. So it's very exciting for us and everyone involved, and everything we've been through and where we are. It's great.
All right, boys, let's answer some epoxy questions. What do you reckon?
Yeah, let's get to it.
A few of our fans have written in some questions. So our first question, I'll direct this at Benny. Our first question is epoxy. We've got a part A and a part B. What does that mean, and why does it matter?
It really matters. It really, really matters, especially that part B. You don't want to be mixing it up without that hardness. So part A traditionally is your resin. Part B is your hardener. It's as simple as that. And then, you know, some manufacturers, some products we use, they also have a part C and a part D, don't they? So, you know, your part C can be a filler, which can thicken or help level the product. And then a part D is your pigment. So, you know, there is a bit to it, and you want to be including all of them if you want.
A bit more simple than just slapping some goop down. Oh, a bit more difficult rather than just slapping some goop down. Yeah.
As Benny touched on, you don't want to be forgetting that part B. It's something
we've seen some.
We have had some phone calls from people that have tried to do it themselves, and either too much part B or not enough, and either way, it's not great. So
no, it's not.
You're starting again.
It's not. Yeah.
I guess advice to those people is just get yourself some solvent and start mopping.
And maybe just, you know, leave it to the professionals. Okay, so we've touched on part A and part B and the importance of it, and that's all well and good, but I might go to you for this one, Savvy. The importance of mixing the products properly.
Well, it's a critical component. If you don't mix them properly, it's not going to go off, and you'll end up with those soft spots in the floor. A floor that's not fully cured, and that's not fun for anyone.
What do you reckon, Vanders?
Yeah, it's critical. Mixing the right amount of A and B gives you the longevity of the floor.
What are we talking? Just a quick 10-second spin up, or
A good minute.
yeah, at least. But you want to be checking the TDSs for that. I reckon.
Whatever spec.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all comes with instructions at the end of the day. You know, it's the classic sort of bloke thing, isn't it? It's just, we'll just mix it. It looks about right, you know.
Mix it with
But
a stick.
All the products, they all come with ratios, you know, and as long as you work that out, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, TDS is no joke.
No,
TDS is no joke.
some serious stuff.
Absolutely.
Now, I know this is going to divide the room, but if you were stuck on a desert island and you could only bring one epoxy flooring system, what would it be and why? Let's start with you, Savvy.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
We're asking the hard-hitting questions, really.
We are.
Mm.
Oh, I think I'm taking a polyurethane cement.
Solid.
Durable.
Solid.
You can get a good amount of non-slip. Being on that deserted island, I've got the sand readily available
Nice, good
to
thing.
beach it out. Yeah, it's got to be my go-to.
Yeah.
Chemical resistant, because it's probably something you'll come across on a desert island.
Yeah.
Chemicals. But I think that's it.
Yeah, I'm going to build on that and say, you've made a very valid point. We're surrounded by sand at this desert island. I'm probably taking just a binder,
Just a
right?
binder.
If I bring a binder, part A and part B of binder, I have all this sand. I have an endless amount of epoxy mortar that I can make. Can build myself a shelter. I can have 1 to 100 fall in that shelter, obviously, to deal with any water ingress
Yeah.
and seal it.
You'd have the strongest sandcastles on the island
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, no one's stepping on that sandcastle, I'll tell you right now.
They're not getting washed away.
No, sir. What about you, Benny?
It's an easy one for me, and this is going to divide some people, but it's a polyurethane roll coat. One of my favorite products. You know, whilst all you guys are using all that, my stuff's not going yellow. It's not greening.
You're right.
It's got that UV stability. We really like a product called Dulux Weathermax HBR. You can get it tinted to pretty much any Dulux color. Real high amount of solids in it. It's such a great product to use. We fall back on that product all the time. You know, it's a cracking product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Vanders?
Hey, Benny stole mine. I was going to go with the weather match.
Yeah.
Taking a bit of pride.
Sorry, mate, I've taken that off you. It's your tin as well.
Yeah, get it in any colour. Sticks to pretty much anything. Looks good.
It is a good product.
Can't go wrong.
I mean, to be honest, if I'm on a desert island, I'm not too worried about the aesthetic. No one's saying that. Like, I'm going function.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, polyurethane cement's crazy though. Well, you got a food grade floor in the desert. There's no food, mate. Like,
Yeah, well, we'll find something.
figure something out. Yeah, great.
Okay, guys. So I got another question here from our many viewers out there. So somebody's asking what is VOC? What does it stand for, and what does it mean? And how is it important in what we do?
VOC is the volatile organic compound. So it's pretty much the stink in the air. It's the amount of vapor, the amount of harmful stuff that a product gives off, whether that's when it's in its part A, part B form, or when it's curing, or in some cases after it's cured. I guess why it's important to consider that is sometimes you're in situations where having a low VOC product is crucial. That might be in a food grade facility where, you don't want to risk contamination. It might be in situations where you have residents in an area, if you're doing an underground car park or something like that. They're all considerations. You want to add on that at all?
I think you've pretty well covered it there. I mean, a lot of the work we do is sort of in these sort of live food environments. So, yeah, it's really important to not contaminate material. I mean, food and things like that. But even packaged food can get contaminated from high VOC. So it's extremely important. We're always working in these sort of
nothing positive about like a poisoned chicken wing, for example.
You're not wrong.
I want to get sick like that. I'll tell you right now, I could kill a dog.
Hey, Vanders, what do you reckon about then maybe some examples? So what would you say, it doesn't need to be a manufacturer, but like what would you say is a low VOC product, and what would you say is like a high VOC? How do they differ?
High would be your 2-pack polyaspartic. You can tell as soon as you roll.
Stinks.
Yeah, it stinks.
Yeah.
Very strong. Whereas you go for maybe a PU 600 or something, low VOC,
Yeah, more of like
not
a
much smell.
yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, it does also depend on what thinners you're thinning. If you are thinning the product down, what you're thinning it down with,
Yeah.
that makes a difference.
Polyurethane cements are commonly used in these sort of food industries because of their low VOC content. A lot of these places, they don't shut down. They don't ever shut down. So we're doing works in there whilst there's raw meat around and fresh vegetables or whatever it may be. So low VOC is extremely important.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. So next questions come in. The viewers want to know, what are the key differences between polyurethanes and epoxies, and when should you use sort of one over the other?
Polyurethanes are more likely to be UV stable. It's a lot easier to achieve UV stability with a polyurethane product, which is why we often use it for top coats, especially outside. And the polyurethane has higher chemical resistance as well in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
That's a key point of that.
Yeah. And it could come down to dollars sometimes as well. I reckon, there's basically a difference in price. Epoxies are generally a little bit more cost effective. A polyurethane product's usually a bit more pricey. It's a bit more premium, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's all about specifying the right product that's fit for purpose, fit for the application.
That's what it all comes down to at the end of the day. And
it's what we all do, we all specify what we think is right for that project.
Exactly.
That's why it's important.
Yeah.
Can epoxy be a DIY, or is it better left to the professionals, Jake? What do you think?
Oh, look, if you're doing a small garage and you're pretty handy, you might be able to do it yourself. There are some key factors to sort of consider, though. If you're doing it yourself, you want to make sure you're prepping it properly, which might mean hiring a grinder, a diamond grinder to grind the surface to make sure you get your adhesion. And then, it's about making sure that you're mixing the products correctly, you're using the correct products, you're adhering to appropriate drying times and all of that. But it's still tricky. Epoxy moves a particular way. If you're not moving fast enough with it, you only have a certain amount of working time with it. Sometimes it is just better to leave it to the professionals.
Yeah, look, like you touched on, Jake, the preparation is the key behind it all. It's the key to the longevity of the floor.
Yes, sir.
If the preparation's not done properly, the floor won't last. So there's a lot that goes into that concrete grinding, choosing the right diamonds to ensure that you're getting the right amount of the good adhesion, and you're also not scoring the concrete too badly that's going to show through the coatings. So I believe
that was an excellent answer, Savvy. And as an excellent answer, you get a packet of Safecoat branded mints.
Outstanding.
To share,
yeah.
Thank you.
You share them. Yeah.
All of you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
They're great mints. They're really very
delicious mints.
I'm just going to add on to that as well. I mean, there's an art to it. The years and years doing this, you pick up lots of tips and tricks, and it's just in my eyes, it really is a specialized trade. Absolutely. You want to have a crack at doing your own garage? Absolutely. Yeah. Just research it and look into it. It's not as easy as just nipping down to Bunnings, sweeping off that floor and just whacking some, like you say, just chuck some goop down. It's there's a lot more to it than that. There is an art to it, and you can maybe get away with it, I think, as well. Like, you might be able to get something down in your garage, but it might peel up or delaminate 3 months later. And then it's a headache, isn't it? It's a headache. How many times do we get customers call us? Oh, I've had this company come in and they've done this for me and it's starting to peel up. I mean, how many phone calls do we get like that? And it's a real mess when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
And that you got to grind it all off. You got to do it again.
Yeah. End up costing you twice as much.
Yeah. And you do exactly what you would have done in the first place. You grind the concrete and get it back to the, a nice blank canvas. So.
Another great answer. And for that one,
oh,
Benny Williams. Yeah, the lollies.
Oh, it's the best
Safecoat
prize.
the lollies. So they're yours. Yours to keep. You can have them later.
Thank you very much. I'll share. All right.
Awesome. So our next question is, can you patch a concrete floor prior to epoxy? And if so, what product should you be using? Benny,
Is this me? This one? All right.
this is all you.
You can absolutely. I'd say you absolutely have to patch the concrete slab before you start applying any coatings. There's lots of products on the market. There's lots of products on the market you can use, but it's about researching, and it's about using the correct ones that are fit for purpose. You know, you hear these horror stories again of people just nipping down to Bunnings and getting the builder's bog, you know, which has got a polyester component to it. The epoxy delaminates from it. So it's important if you're patching the concrete slab, you're using what we would call an epoxy fairing compound, an epoxy mortar, and it's basically a very similar chemical makeup to what you're then putting on the floor. It's got an A, it's got a B, a resin and a hardener. You've got to be using the right product when you're patching that concrete.
Yeah, and that said, I mean, there are other things that you can do. You know, if you have a lot of patching that's required, like if it's a lot of small patching, you know, rather than go around and patch each individual thing, you can do what's called an epoxy scratch coat, which is, you know, effectively going over the floor with a thick 1-2 mil layer of the epoxy, which helps fill up all those holes anyway. But I mean, obviously more expensive, but you do get a better result with that.
Strengthens that floor up as well if you need to. You know, if you've got chalky concrete or if you got, you know, lots of holes, lots of cracks you need to fill, it's a great option. Yeah.
I mean, some of the floors that we go in and see, they're quite badly damaged. So that's what some of them require. Sometimes a patch just doesn't quite cut it. Got to remember, sometimes these roll coat systems, they're only a 3-coat system, so imperfections sort of do show through if they're not catered to. So
The microns thick.
Yeah,
You know, the microns,
exactly.
people think you're putting a few mil when you're doing a, you know, roll coat application, but that's more trowelable systems, you know.
So that's right.
Yeah, you know, you've got to have a good blank canvas to work with roll coat systems. Absolutely. About you, Vanders? You got any tips for anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, got everything.
Yeah.
Nothing on the park for me. So.
I even took your Weathermax.
Yeah.
I feel awful about it.
We've got a great question here from Polly. Polly wants to know, how do you achieve different non-slips?
It is an excellent question. So with different systems, there's different things we can do. So we have stir-in aggregates, so aluminium sort of carbides, which comes in different grades, which is stirred into the final coat, which gives a bit of a lighter non-slip, more your sort of P2, P3 finishes, even up to a P4 with some of the more heavy ones. And then your more heavy non-slips that you would see in your sort of food manufacturing and things like that, where they have wash bays and things like that, is a broadcast of different types, different grades of silica sand, different size bauxite sand. There's just so many different options on the market, and that's why it's so important for us to educate the customers in what they're going to require and sort of get the information from them on what the area is being used for and what sort of traffic it's going to have, because non-slip is something that does wear down over time with use on the floor. So you want to propose something that's going to last.
That's great. That's really well done.
Thank you.
Actually, while we've got you talking, Sav, give us a bit of a rundown on the difference between sand and bauxite.
So silica sand comes in a number of different grades. You can go really fine, sort of 30-60 sand through to sort of 1840, which is a bit heavier, and then sort of your 816, which is quite large, which sort of gives you a heavier non-slip, and then you've got your bauxite, which is bauxite's a byproduct of aluminium. So it's much more longer lasting, a lot more durable. You can get it sort of 1.5 to 1 mil, or you can get sort of 1 mil to 1.5 mil. So
Sharp, isn't it?
it is
Bauxite,
really sharp.
Yeah.
And sort of with these high traffic areas, it's the go-to just because it does last.
Yeah, it is more expensive, but you definitely get what you pay for, right?
Absolutely.
This is being broadcast with 1840 sand. Give it sort of a beach look before it gets top coated for that non-slip texture.
Why have we done that, Vanders?
Why have we put the sand in there?
Yeah.
Why have we done it the day before a shoot? I don't know, mate.
I think.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we've done this right in the middle of the factory. That was a great idea by myself late last night. We're actually going to test consumption, aren't we? We're going to test yield on a product that we've just specified on a job. So
Put the TDSs to test, make sure that the manufacturers are returning what they're promising.
Yeah, we've got to get the ordering right on this project because it's a big one. It's a few thousand meters, this project. So, on these TDSs, it will usually say, your estimated consumption might be 5 to 6 meters a litre. But we want to get that spot on. If we're ordering, thousands of litres, we want to make sure that that's accurate and we haven't got hundreds of litres coming back to the factory or we don't order enough. So we're doing a bit of a test here. And we want to put a litre on the floor. And we're going to get an accurate measure of how many meters we get out of it. And then that way we can go into the job confident.
That's right. So what are some of the leading epoxy brands out on the market and sort of how do they differ between each other? Benny, you want to touch on that for us?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we're sitting on them, aren't we?
We are sitting on them, mate. Yeah, we've got I reckon probably 4 of our main suppliers, I'd say. So we got Dulux Group, which also, one of their sister companies or part of that umbrella is Fosroc. That's kind of the construction arm. We buy tons of polyurethane cements off Fosroc, but we also love Dulux. We've got Hychem there, one of our other main suppliers. We've got Flowcrete, which is part of the Tremco group, which some of you guys might know. And our good old Silica as well. You guys will have seen this in Bunnings. They do a massive range of products, so they're a global company. So yeah, it's the same as Dulux Group, global. Look, when it comes to manufacturers and suppliers, there's loads to choose from. But for us, it's sticking with products that we know that we can consistently pump out great floors with. That's the whole thing. I reckon is consistency. Having a reliable manufacturer supplier as well that we can call up. We know that we can get hold of their products. We also like those ones as well that are local, that are made in Australia. That's a big part of it for me.
Definitely.
I love that. Keeping it local where we can. Australian made products as well. I mean, they're world leading products in my opinion. It's all they always use great quality resins, good quality hardness, consistently good.
Absolutely.
What do you reckon, Vander's
all their products. They're normally made for our climate, our conditions.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Don't want to use something that's meant for a 40-degree day, and we're using it in a Melbourne 5-degree day. So I think they all got their ups and downs. They've all got their what am I trying to say?
Strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, strengths and weaknesses. So.
Yeah. What about yourself, Sav? You got like a.
Yeah. Look. I agree with everything you guys have said. I mean, they've all got their benefits, and would. Get a lot of different specifications from architects, and there's always different products spec'd on each job. So it's just making sure we're confident with all the products that we're using, and it's not just limited to the 4 we're sitting on. We're we've got a lot of other suppliers. A&I Coatings is another one.
Yeah, good friends of ours.
Good friend of ours, and there's so many suppliers out there that all do really good quality products. So.
Yeah. I suppose it's important to note as well, they don't all come like this. They all come in different shapes and sizes, different kinds of bottles. You get bigger, they were talking about the Part Cs before. You get big bags of fillers that you have to run through the product. Some of the products you have to tint, so you have to actually go and buy the pigment. We got, we buy a lot of pigments from a company called Wagon Paints, so again, they got hundreds of colours to choose from. So... it's easy to get lost, I think, with all these suppliers and everything that they do and the massive range that they have,
Absolutely.
So that's where it comes down to knowledge and our expertise and experience and again, specifying what's correct, because there is a lot to choose from.
And also cultivating those relationships with the manufacturers, having great relationships with the manufacturers, means that and it even comes down to if there are great jobs on, they're pointing us in the right direction. We're trying to use these guys on big jobs. Yeah, works hand in hand.
I tell you what, mate, there's nothing better than a bit of presence from the suppliers on big jobs.
Yeah,
the customers, the client, they absolutely love it. They love to see the suppliers come onto site. The sales representatives. They hold us accountable as well. They keep us honest, making sure we're doing the right thing by them. We're applying that product on the floor properly, as is recommended. So look, it's important to have those suppliers that are go-tos that have always got our back, but they've also got the customers' back as well.
Absolutely.
I got one for you, Lukey Vanders. How does grinding compare to other preparation methods?
I think grinding is obviously everyone grinds pretty much 90%, I reckon, of the whole industry uses grinders to prep their floors. It's obviously a tried and tested method to prep your floors. I've heard of like acid washing that, but obviously I don't reckon that'd open the concrete up enough to
No, not
have
at all,
the
mate.
correct bond. You got your shot blaster if you really want to open the concrete up. And
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you know, you hear of these stories, don't you? Yeah, usually the cowboys, they'll just recommend, just give it a bit of a scrub, give it a wash, or give it an acid wash,
Really, what?
or the better than that, just give it a sweep off, let's start chucking down some
Get out the
epoxy.
blower.
Yeah.
Blow it off, yeah.
But I suppose it's at this point, isn't it? This is the difference in cost. These diamond grinders that we have, they're best in class. They cost a lot of money, but it's one of the most important parts of the process, which is hard when it comes to thinking, I'll just do a DIY, I'll just do it myself, because you even get sort of certain products on the market out there that can say they target these domestic residential DIYers, and they'll sort of wrongly advise, in my opinion, just give it an acid wash, just give it a sweep off and you can use our stuff, and it generally you just don't get that bond, you don't get the adhesion, and over time it fails.
No key like mechanical key, mate. No key like mechanical key.
Love it.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
I think it's time you got a prize.
I got a prize, yeah.
Yeah, you can have a prize.
What I get?
Because that was a nice little catchphase at
Thank
the
you.
end. So I'm going to give you a Safecoat branded notepad here.
You shouldn't have.
And you know what you're going to need for that?
What's that?
You're going to need a pen.
Oh, well,
I'll give you one of
that's
these.
not a, is that a Safecoat
It's a
branded pen?
Safecoat branded pen.
Safecoat branded pen as well. That's great.
And,
Everything's coming up, Jake.
yeah.
That's really great.
You can use that to make some epoxy notes and stuff if you want. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Write your ratios down in there. So we've got another question that's come in, which is a good one. Because in my eyes, this is some specialized stuff. So the question is, what is epoxy mortar coving? What does the radius mean? What is the height, and why do these things matter? Take it away, Sav. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a doozy of a question, mate. Absolute doozy. So so your epoxy mortar coving sits in the junction of the wall and floor, and you can sort of get different radius covings to suit your needs and sort of aid in cleanability. I think that's one of the one of the benefits of it. I mean, it eliminates that catch point for bacteria, especially in these types of sort of, you see them in a lot of clean rooms and food manufacturing, as we've touched on previously. They need to be able to clean these places easily and kind of any catch points. So I don't know, Vanders, you want to elaborate a little bit further on that?
Yeah, I guess you can go from like a 25 mil sort of pencil cove up to you can go as big as you want, really. But and they generally use arrowhead to give a nice transition from the wall down to the cove. You get the high back 50 mil with a straight up to an arrowhead, or to flush with the tiles. There's so many different ranges and sizes.
And why do we use arrowhead?
Arrowhead?
Yeah, why do we use arrowhead, Sav?
We use arrowhead sort of generally inside a lot of cool rooms and stuff, because the drop in temperature in these sort of areas, the epoxy mortar coving, if it doesn't have like an anchor to the wall, then it will generally just sort of pop away. So that arrowhead's essentially just an aluminium trim which sits above the cove, which is anchored to the wall, and it gives the epoxy mortar something to anchor into. So beautiful.
You know what, Jake? God love him, our old boss. He the best way I heard him describe a cove to a customer.
It's the bathtub effect. It's like a bathtub.
Imagine a bathtub.
Imagine a bathtub. No catch points in a bathtub.
That's what he said to a customer. And it kind of,
we thought it was insane at the time.
It's a funny sort of thing for him to say, but that does give you kind of a good idea of what a cove is and how it looks. It kind of flows, it's all seamless and
stops any water.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Mate, that's what he's saying to the customer. Imagine a bathtub. It's a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So another question's come in. I'll leave this one with you, Jake. But what is silica dust and why is it crucial to manage?
Silica dust is typically a byproduct of grinding the concrete. Once you grind the concrete, when we're doing our surface prep, obviously that grinding creates a dust. That dust is silica dust due to the high silica content in a lot of concretes. And the reason that's harmful is it's microscopic. You don't even see it in the air. But if that gets into your lungs, over periods of time, it can be very harmful. It can lead to lung disease. It can lead to silicosis, which is create shortness of breath. It's actually a really sort of key point in our industry, sort of something that they've really been making a lot more of a point about, and rightfully so, because we need to mitigate these dangers. But yeah, over the past sort of 5 to 10 years, it's sort of, become a bit of a hot topic. And, as a result, obviously we got to do everything that we can to mitigate that silica, the effect of the silica dust, which is, do you want to touch on the
look, let's be honest, it can kill you. There's a lot of research being done. They're saying it's worse than asbestos. This is why we put so much money into protecting our team. This is why we have all of our, HEPA filter dust extraction. We have air scrubbers, that collect any residual airborne. It's just so important. Not only that, we put a lot of investment into our team with their PPE. Fit testing their respirators. So they're not just whacking it on and it's loose and they're still breathing it in. That forms a crucial part of their PPE setup. Whenever whenever our team start grinding that concrete, they're protected. It's at the end of the day, it is classed as high risk work, which is fine if it's managed properly. At the end of the day, So and we do our best to manage it properly and make sure we're doing the right thing. All of our silica dust, it's all bagged, isn't it? Gone are the days of it just dropping down into the vacuum and then just tipping it in the skip bin. And that's something in itself as well. Yeah, skip bins. Like, we're finding a lot of our waste management companies we work with, we have to, pay for prescribed waste now. So we get, dockets to say that it's been disposed of properly. And that forms part of our handover to the client. When we're working for, hospitals, schools, they want to know that we've done the right thing. We've got rid of that silica dust. It's been managed and it's been gotten rid of properly, safely, and whilst we've been on site, our team's all protected and they're not breathing in this nasty stuff. So, but it goes back to, investing in the team, investing in the machinery and the people that work for us and looking after them, Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right, Vanders, I got another one for you, mate. How important is reputation within the epoxy flooring industry?
I think it's huge. You obviously don't want to go in somewhere with a bad name. Like they want to see, I don't know, what floors you've done coming into their one, and they want to know that you're going to do really high standard floor. It's massive.
It's definitely a key, and being able to showcase large projects is a massive thing. They want to see previous work. They whether that be through photos or they actually want to visit the site. Sometimes they want to go have a look at it in real life. So
that's why it's so important. We do case studies, don't we, on some of these bigger projects that we work on, for say Coca-Cola and, Marvel Stadium, and it's a privilege to work for these kind of companies, but and clients, but at the same time, it's earned because we do such high quality of work, But it's great for referencing, if we're looking after these caliber of customers, we can look after anyone,
And also with that, they're not going anywhere else. They're not having to look for other companies because you got that
trust,
that awesome
reputation.
Name.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. No, that's really good answers. And for that, Vanders, I think I'm going to gift you with a little bit of a Safecoat branded hand sanitizer.
Wow,
Look at that.
the cream of the crop.
You don't use all that at once, all right?
You can chuck that in your
Use that
pocket.
sparingly. That's a limited edition one, that one. So.
He's going to re-gift that.
Don't just hand those out to anybody either. So.
It's my name on it.
You definitely don't hand those out to absolutely everybody, that's for sure. I got one for you, Savvy. When and why would you use a trowel for an epoxy floor?
That's a good one, Jake. But look, generally it's going to be dependent on the system. When you need to put a system down that's quite thick, sometimes the only way is to trowel that onto the floor.
Let's go back a step. What is a trowel, Sav?
So there's different types of trowels. I mean, you can get, it's almost like a flat bed of steel with a handle, essentially.
Concrete trowel, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got sort of, like I said, just a square trowel. You've got sort of trowels with rounded ends. You've got notch trowels, which can be handy in sort of putting proper thicknesses down. You got stand-up trowels. You got so many different options. So
A lot of trowels.
A lot of trowels. You want to?
A lot of trowels, a lot of floors.
Yeah, a lot of floors. But yeah, like I was sort of touching on before, it is dependent on the flooring system going down. Like generally, you're not going to trowel down a roll coat. It's generally why it's called a roll coat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a polyurethane cement is always a sort of troweled on system. So whether that be like a notch trowel or a stand-up trowel or
Gauge rake.
A gauge rake is another one, which is sort of a rake which has pins either side, which are set to a specific height.
Yeah.
And it sort of pulls the material across the floor and puts it down at the correct thickness. So, Benny, I don't know if you want to elaborate any further. Or?
Yeah, we love a troweled floor, don't we? Yeah. It just means, for me, it means thickness, It means usually if you're troweling a floor, it's a product that's usually got some kind of filler that runs through it.
Yeah, it's a substantial product.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's a few mil. When you roller apply a floor, it's microns. We're not even talking mils. So trowel applied floors are, some of our favorite. They're definitely the more substantial kind of floors we install, premium quality floors. But yeah, it gives you that thickness that you need, which gives you the durability, the longevity, What about you, mate? Do you want to add to it?
Also used for like your mortar screeds.
Yeah.
Smooth them out, give you a nice smooth finish ready for your top coats, base coats.
Yeah, help you shape
use,
the mortar as well
yeah.
to sort of what you need to do.
What's an epoxy mortar screed then? We've got millions of viewers out there, mate. They're asking that question.
It's an A and B resin.
Everybody wants to know what's an epoxy resin screed.
Yeah, it's a resin and a hardener mixed to we normally use a 1.5 litres to 9 litres of sand. Gives you a nice consistent mix that once applied to a screed or a splay, it goes rock hard and gives you that fall to your drains or fall away from a low point.
Stronger than concrete.
Goes stronger than concrete. Higher MPA. Yeah, I mean, going on from that, epoxy mortar screeds, we love them, don't we, under our flooring systems?
Yes,
they're far superior to, say, you get traditional screeds like your sand and cement-based screeds, engineered screeds, they just... if any sort of water hits that stuff, they just dissolve. They're no good for what we do. So epoxy mortar screeds, it's just resin flooded through the sand. They're strong as hell, So, but I mean, leading on from that, do you want to maybe talk about, graded floors? Falls to drains. What are they like? What's all that about? And how does a epoxy mortar screed?
Yeah, of course. So look, in some instances, as part of our job, we need to, splay falls to drains. Like we might have a strip drain in the middle of an abattoir and we need to encourage the water when they wash it down to go towards the drain. Now, that's not going to do it on a totally flat floor. It's not going to move anywhere. So we need to make sure that the area that furthest away from the drain is higher than the drain. It seems pretty logical, but
it's a good way of explaining it, mate. Literally, it's a ramped grade, isn't it? But this is a big OH&S issue. You mentioned abattoirs, food production. If inspectors go in, food standards go in and they see water that's stagnant, it's just sitting. It harbors bacteria, listeria, things like that, and they just won't stand for it. So all that water needs to flow to the drain, and that's an epoxy mortar screed that does that.
Spot on.
Oh, I've got a question come in from Desiree from Ballarat. This is about temperature, how temperature affects pretty much water epoxy and how you apply it in different temperatures. Benny, you want to elaborate?
Yeah, well, it's one of many sort of environmental conditions and challenges that we face, I suppose, isn't it? You know, doing what we do in summer is a different game in winter. You know, we have to revert to using different products if they behave differently.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing about Melbourne in particular.
Yeah,
being an epoxy flooring installer in Melbourne, we get both sides of the spectrum. Like sometimes it's 40 degrees and the kits last 2 minutes in a bucket. You know, I guess to make sense of that, the epoxy usually is a thermochemical cure, so it relies on the temperature to actually cure. But when it's hotter, it cures a lot faster compared to when it's colder. You know, sometimes it cures a lot slower. So you know, in summer, we're making small kits to try to mitigate it going off too quickly. We're trying to condition the material before we put it down. Like if that's leave it in a cold space somewhere to try and keep it cold. But I guess on the other end of the spectrum is, you know, in winter, you know,
there's 40 to 4 degrees.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Different game.
Sub-zero.
Yeah. We're
Sometimes.
regularly having to use accelerators, you know, sort of cold cure hardeners to try to mitigate those issues. So yeah, temperature does play a huge part.
I tell you what, Vanders was in a freezer the other week.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing a sample for a
Yeah, that was
client.
mental.
Yeah, minus
Minus
18.
18.
Yeah, and it worked, didn't it? Yeah, you were putting a sample in for a big client around the corner, and because they didn't have a solution for the, you know, because they wanted to keep the freezer on.
Yeah.
And
pretty much running non-stop.
yeah.
So yeah, going from a cool area, 5 degrees into a minus 18.
Yeah, 40 degrees, 4 degrees, minus 18. Like it's just a completely different game. And I suppose to add to it as well, you know, it's other considerations. You know, you got humidity to think about. You know, moisture readings that we do on all the concrete before we even apply anything. You know, it's got to be within certain thresholds before you start applying. You know, environmental conditions are huge with what we do, and you've got to consider everything.
Yeah, we are quite lucky, and a lot of our suppliers do have a lot of solutions for the issues we have. We've got cold cure hardeners and
Accelerators,
catalysts that help the product go off faster in those cold months and in those summer months, those hot days. Sometimes you got to get the boys in there a bit early in the day before it gets too hot.
4 a.m. starts, 5 a.m. starts.
Yeah, exactly. And, just like you said, mixing up smaller amounts at a time just to ensure they can get it out. We don't have the luxury of the work time in summer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
We've just got a question come in from Wickers, and Wickers has asked us, do we just service Victoria? And job size, is there any job that's too big or too small for us? Savvy, you want to talk on this one?
yeah, look, no, we service all over Australia. More than happy to tackle whatever comes at us. We've done jobs recently in Hobart, which was it was a good one to navigate. And
Shopping centre in Brisbane.
shopping centre in Brisbane. We've done a lot of work in New South Wales. We do quite a lot of work up there, which isn't too bad of a travel. But Perth, we've been over to Perth. So just all over Australia we've been, and
So you're pretty much saying wherever we're needed.
Yeah.
wherever we're needed, we'll go there. Like there's no job too big for us. So
I suppose there are jobs too small, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
jobs that, you know, because we only focus on commercial, industrial, you know, construction. So, you know, when we first started the company, it was domestic residential. It was garages, you know, in the early days, you know. But as we've grown, as we have, you know, such a big team now, our focus is construction, commercial, isn't it? So, it's sort of, and that's what we're targeting now. It's the big boy projects. It's the thousands of meters. It's what we love doing, you know.
Yeah.
That's what we're going after.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so look, if you guys have any further questions you want to ask us, or if you have any projects you'd like us to look at for you, feel free to send us an email, info@safecoatflooring.com.au, or give us a call, 1-800-231-907. Thanks.
All right, guys. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks to everybody for watching episode 1, the first and maybe the last. I don't know. I quite enjoyed this episode of Vox'n About Pox'n. I've been Jake. This is Benny. And we got Nick. And we got Vanders. And we're going to say goodbye.
See you later.
Thanks.